known as the Night Stalker, went on a killing spree in the 1980s, terrorizing Southern California.
Tonight, Eyewitness News reporter John Gregory talks to the men who stopped Richard Ramirez, one of LA's most notorious serial killers.
The murders usually happened at night, and often the killers simply slipped through an open door or window.
We stayed awake all last night, kept all the lights on, and I made Steve stay awake because I'm so scared.
The fear would spread with each brutal killing. From June of 1984 to August of the next year, 13 people would die. Those that survived the attacks were often raped, beaten, and left clinging to life.
We can catch this guy and get rid of him, and I think everybody would sleep a lot better.
No one felt the pressure to stop the killings more than Detective Gil Carrillo. He worked day and night to catch the man who will always be remembered as the Night Stalker.
Everything was sexually driven and motivated. Those surviving victims are those that acquiesced to his commands. Those that didn't died.
While sex drove the killer, there was no consistent pattern for authorities to follow. His victims ranged in age from teenagers to seniors. And as for the method of murder,
knives, guns, ligature strangulation, you name it, he ran the gamut.
Pentagrams marked some of the crime scenes. The Night Stalker was a devil worshiper, and as grisly as his crimes were, Carrillo reluctantly admits he needed the suspect to strike again if he was going to catch him.
We needed him to continue working, to get more evidence, to get that. We needed a break.
The break came in Mission Viejo. A teenager spotted a suspicious man driving this car through the neighborhood. Police later found the stolen car abandoned. Inside, they found a fingerprint belonging to a Richard Ramirez. The print matched another one found at one of the crime scenes. The Night Stalker now had a face and a name, which authorities quickly released to the public.
The next morning, somebody sees him on a bus, and they look at his photo, and the rest is history.
Julio Burgoyne would play a part in that history. After being spotted on a bus, Ramirez fled on foot to this East L.A. neighborhood. He tried to steal a car, and Julio, his father, and others grabbed him, beat him, and held him. Only then did residents realize who Ramirez was.
And people had newspapers saying, that's him, the murderer.
The Night Stalker was in custody, and now authorities had to keep him there. The evidence in court would be overwhelming.
This is one of the two handguns Ramirez used during the killing spree. Authorities were able to connect him to this weapon through ammunition, which he kept in a bus station locker.
Fingerprints tied him to the scene. There were shoe prints, too. And, of course, there were the survivors, who identified Ramirez as the killer.
The M.O. in many of these events was to murder the husband, sexually assault the wife, but let the wife live. And some of these women did come in and testify, and it was horrible.
The 27-year-old also did his part to seal his own fate.
At his very first court appearance, he raised his right hand, said, "Hail Satan," and he had a pentagram drawn on his hand.
For jurors, there was little doubt. Ramirez was found guilty and sentenced to death. And even though decades later he's still alive on death row, Alan Yokelson is satisfied.
A very, very dangerous person was taken off the streets. A person who, based on the evidence, didn't appear to be slowing down, was going to keep on doing these things. So, yeah, justice was served.
Richard Ramirez will never be free to harm anyone again, but even those who stopped him admit they'll never forget the fear or the terror caused by the Night Stalker as he roamed from one city to the next on one of the bloodiest and cruelest killing sprees anyone can remember. John Gregory, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.